So today you're joining me at a session down at my syndicate lake. I'll be running through a quick how-to guide on spodding and some of the Wolf products in the range that could help you achieve this. The first thing, obviously probably one of the main things when you come into spodding, is the hardware, making sure you've got the right equipment for the job. There's no point turning up to a lake and you've been under-equipped and not having the right tools for the job. It's just not going to benefit you in the long run. So the main thing probably for me is the rod itself. You could probably get away with using one of your own general fishing rods at certain ranges, but once you get past a certain range, it's just not going to be man enough. You won't be fishing accurately, you won't be hitting the clip every time. It's just not beneficial for your own fishing. So for me, I use the X3K Spod and marker rod from the Wolf range. I use the 12 foot, it's in 4 pound test curve, and I've hit ranges up to 140 yards plus comfortably for my general spodding. And then next to this is the reel. This is your own personal preference, whatever you're comfortable with using, but I would recommend something with a large spool and quite a strong clip so that when you are hitting them big distances, it is man enough for the job. So a couple of new products that Wolf have just released to go perfectly with this is the Spod and marker braid and the leader braid. These have recently been released, but I've had my hands on these for quite some time now. I've been using this to good effect with my own spodding. I think two quality products. The Spod and marker braid comes in the Wolf blue, 300 meters, 25 pound breaking strain, and then coupled with that would be the leader braid, which is a 50 pound breaking strain. I think you can get away with just using the Spod and marker braid if you was fishing reasonable distances, but if you start hitting them bigger distances on big pits, for example, you would need the leader braid just to absorb the shock of the cast. I think together they are coupled really well. And then the next bit for me, which is essential, is either a casting glove or a finger stall. There are two products in the range which Wolf have brought out. They do a casting glove and a finger stall, both Kevlar, both perfect for the job. Last thing you want is to try and casting out without one of these and cutting line into your finger. It's just not nice. They come in multiple sizes in both of them, and it's your preference of what you really want, to be honest. I use either. I feel the gloves probably better for me personally because I feel it's a bit tighter, doesn't slip off when you're casting. I know in the past other products I've had sometimes tend to slip, but both quality pieces of kit and are a must for me, to be honest. Moving on to the business end, and obviously the most important is the Spod itself. You've got two in the range from Wolf. You've got the Spod Performance, which is a larger size, and you've got the Spod Competition, which is the smaller size. Both identical in what they do features wise, it's just literally the size that's different. So picking the size you need comes down to the scenario you're fishing in. So for me, the two main things that I take into consideration when I'm picking the size of what I want to use is disturbance and distance. So the first thing, obviously distance, is if I'm fishing anything over 100, 120 yards and I need to get the distance, I will be using the competition Spod. It's more aerodynamic, it flies a lot better, and it does reach them distances. I've had this up to probably, I don't know, 160 yards comfortably. And then on the opposite side of that, if I was fishing under 100 yards, I'd be probably using the Spod Performance. So just taking into consideration disturbance, obviously with it being smaller, it does create a lot less disturbance. So if I was fishing a small intimate water that's quite shallow, like 3 or 4 foot, and I didn't want to disturb the fish too much, I'd be using this. You can get away with a couple of casts with this and it doesn't create much disturbance. But then again, if I was fishing a big deep open water pit where I wanted to absolutely fill it in, it would take quite a while with that. So I do tend to use the Performance Spod if I was putting quite a bit of bait out. It just holds a lot more bait and it just gets the job done a lot quicker. So filling it up, very simple. It all works off magnets, so it's all on impact when it opens, so it won't open by accident mid-flight like most other things do. So with it being magnets, basically they both split into quarters. There's magnets in each quarter, so the bigger version has 6 magnets, the smaller version has 4 magnets per quarter, but they're both identical really. So all I do is to fill it up, I'll just pop one section open, push it to the side with my thumb, so it's all one hand, scoop it in the bucket, literally close it. Just quick and simple. Or again, if you wanted to just pop one open, if you had a bait scoop your bait, pour it in, close it again, quick and simple. Same principle for this. But if you wanted to, there is multiple ways to do it. It's all on preference, so you can open it 2 ways if you wanted to use it as a scoop like that. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. When you're spodding, you really want to get into a routine, be nice and comfortable, gets the job done quicker. So for me, I've just found popping one open is literally the simplest way for me. Some really nice features with these two there. They do come with built-in floats. So these top sections on both of them will float. So if you do crack off, it won't sink, it will float and hopefully drift into the margins where you should be able to retrieve it. I know a few fishing lakes, they have rules where you must have a float on top in case you crack off, so you don't need an additional float with these. They have come built in, makes it a lot more aerodynamic and a lot easier to cast. And then probably my favourite feature of all, especially with these, is they do hold liquids. They will hold pure liquids, they do hold sloppy spods, they don't create a mess everywhere. So again, all I do is I pop one open, put all the liquid in, shut it, it won't leak. So when you're casting out, it don't cover your bivvy in liquids behind you or your sloppy spod goes everywhere. Nice and neat, and it is a real good edge on some lakes, spodding out pure liquids. I've utilised that a lot with these since using them, and I really do like it. But one thing I would say with these, the competition version, the arms are a bit stiff when they're brand new. They may not open first time, so all I'll do is when I get a brand new one, pop all 4 sections open, just give the arms a pull back. You won't break them, they are pretty much indestructible to be honest. Yeah, just give all 4 a little pull back, just stretch them out a bit, give them a bit of wear and tear, and then close it up again and it's good to go. I'd probably do that for the first few times just to get used to it, and then it'll be good to go after that. So now that I've run you through the products from Wolf and the introduction into spodding, I'll run you through the actual process and what's involved. So the very first thing is obviously getting your spod and marker braid onto your reel. So all you need for this, obviously you need your butt section of your rod with your reel attached, and obviously the spod and marker braid. So all I do is I take the tag end, pass it back through the eye, down onto your reel, just tie it onto your reel, just a little simple knot just so it's attached, and then drop the whole thing into the bucket of water. So once that's in the water, nice like that, just take your rod, make sure your line's nice and tight so it doesn't tangle or anything. Just need to make sure the line goes onto the spool nice and evenly. You can use a cloth if you want, I just use my hand. So all I do is I'll just hold the line against the blank of the rod. Once the spool's in the water, I just start reeling. Just make sure it goes on nice and evenly. Just make sure you keep applying that pressure through your fingers just so it doesn't go on slack. So once you're fully spooled up, got your reel ready to go, you could just go straight in with that, but I would recommend putting a shock leader on. I just absorb some of that pressure of the cast. It's really, if you're going to be fishing quite long distances, I would recommend using this. So all I'll do is, to attach the shock leader, just take quite a nice long section of your braid. Again, take another long section of your shock leader, just put that down there. Put them side by side together. All I do is, whilst they're next to each other, I'll take a big section of the shock leader, create a loop around the braid, just wrap it round 5 or 6 times, making sure you go around both the braid and the shock leader around the loop. Once that's round there 5 or 6 times, just pull it tight, wet it as you go, just pull it down. And then again, with this end, same as before, nice big loop in your braid. Make sure it's around both the braid and the shock leader. And with this being a bit thinner diameter, I'd wrap this around a few more times, maybe 7 or 8 times. Again, going around both sections as you go. Once that's around there, pull that down tight, wet it as you go again. Take both the sections, just pull them together. As they're coming close together, just wet it down. Pull both the tag ends. And there you go, nice and tight together. Trim both the tag ends just to neaten it up a bit. Just get a pair of scissors, trim them down. Once that's done and your shock leader's attached, I just reel maybe 2 to 3 rod lengths of the shock leader actually onto your reel itself. So just get that, I'll just tighten that up. Line that down there, so as you see, shock leader's coming onto the reel now, so I just maybe do 5 or 6 turns of the shock leader onto your reel. Just grab the other end of the shock leader, just cut it off the spool itself, put that to the side. And then the easiest way to attach your spod, I think, just loop to loop. So if you just create a nice big loop, just do a double overhand knot, just pass that through there twice. Just create one big nice loop. The other benefit of having a loop as well is if you're using your one rod for markering and leading about, you can quickly just switch between your spod and your lead just with this one loop. So all I'll do is, once that's created, just get your spod, pass it through the loop and the hole in the top of the spod, grab the nice big loop that you just created, pass that over the whole spod itself, pull it down tight, attached, ready to go. And then likewise, if you wanted to then switch to a leading rod and take your spod off, just undo the loop, pass it back over, switch a lead on, and you're good to go. So the next thing to do is obviously find your spot out in the lake. You'd put obviously a bare lead or a marker float on your marker rod, cast that out, find your spot. Obviously you put your line under your clip, reel it in, and then obviously this is when your distance sticks come into hand. So obviously you want to be nice and accurate. So what I would do is obviously I use one rod for markering and my spodding. So this rod here, for example, would have had my lead rod on it, and I'd have found my spot out in the lake. So at the minute, I've just found a spot probably just past halfway, a nice firm spot. So what I'd do is I'd get my distance 6, I'd wrap it up to find my exact distance that I'm fishing, and then I take into account the depth of the lake. Because obviously with a lead on, it's going to swing back as it's hit the clip and fall a bit shorter than what you think. So you need to make sure that your spod rod and your spod is clipped up to a shorter distance depending on the depth of the water and the range that you're fishing at. So the rule of thumb for this is roughly every 3 foot in depth of the lake, you want to take roughly 1 foot of line off your distance of your clip. So for example, the lake I'm fishing at the minute, it's 15 foot deep. So rule of thumb, roughly I need to take around 5 foot off my clip just to make sure that my bait is landing directly over my fishing rods. So first thing to do, get your distance 6. Once your rod's laid on the floor, put your first distance stick at the butt of your rod, push that in nice and firm. Second distance stick at the tip of your rod, again push that in nice and firm. So grab your rod. So at the minute, the clip that's in this reel is based on this being a lead, and I found my spot out in the middle. So that is where my fishing rigs will be lying. So what you do is put this round your first distance stick, flick your bail arm over, and just start wrapping your line around each distance stick to find the spot where your fishing rods will be fishing. So there we go. So I've just hit the clip now. So this is, bearing in mind, with my fishing rod and a bare lead. So that's just under 14 wraps. So I know when I cast out with my fishing rods, I'm clipped up at 14 wraps. With the swing back in 15 foot of water, I need to take off roughly 5 foot of distance off this clip, so that when I start casting out with my spod rod, my bait will fall directly over my fishing rods. So all I do is flip my bail line back over, take off roughly 5 foot of distance. So obviously the distance sticks are 12 foot apart, so halfway 6 foot. So that's about 5 foot taken off. If you want to be super accurate, you can get a tape measure out, but for the purpose of this, we're quite accurate. So now you've taken 5 foot off, you want to put your new clip back in. So now I know that I'm at exactly 13.5 wraps for my spod rod and 14 for my fishing rods. And then all you do is wind back down, keeping it nice and tight so you don't get any tangles. Just follow your tip to either end of the distance stick, keeping your line tight under your hand as well so you don't get tangled around your reel. So now I'm back to my spod, I think, am I? Yep, there we go. So now in this instance, I'd unclip my lead off this, obviously put my spod on, which I've already done. And now I know that this is clipped up at 13.5. All my 3 fishing rods are clipped up at 14. Now all I need to do is get this in the lake and get that spot topped up with bait. So once you're clipped up and ready to go, now it's time to get the bait out. So obviously first thing you need to do, stand in the spot where you're going to be casting your fishing rods from so that you're nice and accurate. And obviously, as we mentioned earlier, you don't want that braid cutting into your finger when you're casting. This is when you need the use of the casting glove or the finger stall. For me personally, I use the casting glove. Just feel it's a nice tighter fit for me. So all you do is you slide that on your finger, wrap the glove around the back of your hand, then using the Velcro, just attach it so it's nice and tight. Obviously, if you're using the finger stall, you just slide that over your finger. So what you need to do next, obviously, get your Spod ready to go. I'm using the Performance because I'm only fishing at around 13 wraps, so it's not too far. Pop it open, grab your bait, fill it nice and simply, close it shut with a magnet so it's nice and ready to go. Make sure you're not wrapped around your tip. Then lining up with your horizontal marker on the far margin. Get ready to cast it out. So that's it, the clip there, landed nicely, the spod's opened up. And then once it's opened up, you just skim it back across the surface, nice and quickly. And it's as simple as that. So obviously now it's a case of repeating the process, getting the bait out there, hopefully catch you some fish. I hope what I've shown you today has been beneficial to your own fishing, and I hope you can use it in the future.